peeps, welcome back to the newest episode of Just Ask the G.O.A.T with yours truly, Neira the G.O.A.T. If this is your first time listening, thank you so much. I hope that you enjoy the podcast. If you're a returning guest, what's down, cousin? I'm so happy that you're back. Let's get into this week's episode. Hey peeps, welcome back to the Just Ask the G.O.A.T podcast, hosted by your absolute favorite, Neira. I'm so excited to be back, finally podcasting. It has been a long time. Make you guys laugh. For Thanksgiving, I traveled back to Louisiana, and my younger cousin Brianna, shout out to Brianna. And the first question she asked me was, "Girl, where's the podcast? Because you haven't posted one since March." And I was so convicted, but also excited because, yes, I have not posted a podcast since March. I've had a lot of changes that have happened this year for me. Um, and I also have mentioned before on the Manifest With Need podcast that I record podcasts when I feel intuitively led to do so. Um, and so, in this time, in this break that I've spent away from you guys, I have done a lot of soul searching. I have been adjusting to changes. I have been letting go of things. I've been observing myself and learning new things about myself. And I kept on reminding myself that when the time is right, I will make a podcast and have something to say. And through this time that I've taken off, I've realized that I have not outgrown manifestation. I'm sure I'll still mention it from time to time on the podcast, but I wanted to be able to open up my platform to discuss more than just manifestation. Um, so here we are, December 21st, with 10 days left into the year. I have decided to relaunch the podcast as Just Ask the G.O.A.T. As many of you know, I am a Capricorn. Which is represented by the sea goat, but it was a joke amongst me and my friends about calling me the goat, because I have probably had about, I don't know, 23, 24 jobs in my life. And so I kind of just throw myself into new endeavors, new things, oftentimes with no experience. And I teach myself everything. And I end up becoming pretty great at it. And I am kind of the epitome of the phrase, a jack of all trades, a master of none, but often better than a master of one. My friend Lauren suggested that maybe I use my platform and my voice to share some of my experiences and why I am the GOAT. 23, 24 jobs before the age of 40 is wild. So, I've been on many interviews, I've had many encounters, and I've taught myself a lot, but I've also learned a lot. I thank you guys for being so patient as I have been recalibrating life. And I hope that as you continue to follow me and grow with me, that this podcast is a blessing to anyone that listens to it. And I look forward to starting this new season and this new chapter of life with you all. A couple of weeks ago, it might have been about a month ago, I started feeling it deep down in my spirit that it was just about time to get back behind my Mac microphone, which is why it's in and out, but that's all right. To get back behind the microphone and do a new podcast episode. Not necessarily sure what I was going to be talking about, but a couple of days ago, I decided to go back and listen to my last podcast episode that was released in March of this year, which was about how God wastes nothing. I feel like picking up from that episode and now, and the experiences that I've had from then until now, could be super helpful and just kind of like a part two to God Wastes Nothing. During July of this year, I started reading this book called The Artist's Way, A Spiritual Path to Higher Creativity by Julia Cameron. And it's not necessarily a book that you can just read all the way through, but it's a 12-week program that helps you tap into your creativity. Paraphrasing what the book says, our creativity is given to us by God, and our gift back to God is the use of our creativity. But a lot of the times, if your creativity isn't nurtured when you are a small child, you end up falling into the pattern of accepting things just for the sake of accepting them, not necessarily because it's in alignment with who you are and your creativity. I can only speak for myself, right? I know that I'm naturally dramatic, for a lack of a better word. But I've always had a special gift when it comes to the arts, when it comes to film, acting, editing, producing, creating, um, writing. And I've watched that gift be used all throughout my life in different careers and jobs that I've had, but I never quite leaned all the way into my creativity for myself. At the previous job that I had, one of my main duties was being a content creator. And before that was a hot term, I've always been a creative writer and I have been a screenwriter since about 2011, 2010, 2011. And so whenever I landed my job, the first project that I ever got to really showcase my skills was my boss wanted to do a spoof of the Jerry Springer show. And so I wrote all of the scripts for us to spoof Jerry Springer with some Instagram influencer and comedians in mind of who might actually play in the scripts. The plan was for me to write a spoof based on the television show, but be able to bring in the marketing piece of it. So selling the product through making fun of it through this show. And then from there, um, the spoof on Jerry Springer turned into a spoof of the movie American Gangster, turned into a spoof of Scarface, a spoof of Waiting to Exhale, a spoof of Family Feud. I mean, I literally wrote about 30 scripts, 30 to 35 scripts in a matter of a 3.5 year period of me working at this company that have had millions of views. But even prior to me working there, I had some screenplays that I submitted to different contests. But it wasn't until I partnered with my friend Erica, shout out to Erica, who I met when I was dancing at the strip club, that we partnered together and we wrote my first official script that had ever been filmed. And that was to her web series, Girl Play. And she had this idea for a web series that was like a blend of the L word mixed with Sex in the City, mixed with Girlfriends, showing Black women and women of color in New Orleans and their dating life from the LGBTQIAs plus perspective. We only filmed about half of the episodes that we had written. But even in the half of the episodes that we had written, I think one of them had gotten close to 1 million views before Erica decided to pull it off of YouTube. That was an inkling right there of the market that was available and the fact that we really knew what we were doing even when we didn't know what we were doing. So when I got my job and now that I'm not there anymore and I sit back and I think about all of the things that I've been a part of, the things that I've actually written and produced and working through the book, The Artist Way, I realized like, yo, this is your gifting. This is your talent. So I was able to really identify that. And it sounds so crazy like that I'm 34 years old and even though I've kind of done these things, I guess because I did not do or accomplish any of these things in the way that I initially thought it was going to happen, it wasn't really resonating with me. It wasn't really hitting like it was supposed to be hitting. I wasn't really aware of the fact that I was already doing and living partially what I'm naturally good at. This summer, I decided that I was going to lean into my creativity. So, by Google's definition, creativity is the use of the imagination or original ideas, especially in the production of an artistic work. But when I think about creativity, I don't necessarily want us to be limited by thinking that creativity is only used in the field of the arts. Right now, we just want to tap back into the thing or the things that make us creative as individuals. For some people, that looks like the fact that you might have the gift of gab. You might know how to sing or play an instrument, or you might naturally be empathetic and compassionate. You might be intuitive. You might be clairvoyant, clairaudient. If you ask my sister, I'm both. Whatever those things are, it's really interesting for us to go back and really think about what is it that makes us creative. When your creativity is not being nurtured as a child, it's really easy to snuff it out, and before you know it, it feels like it's disappeared. What I'm trying to say is, a lot of the times when we are kids, that is where we can find where our creativity actually lies or where it might be hidden. One exercise that I would like for you to do at some point today or this week or whenever you fucking hear this video. Oh, by the way, I'm also going to do my best to try to stop cursing. But every now and again it slips out, so just bear with me. Sit down and think about all of the things that you used to like to do as a kid. Me personally, I like to play skip it. I love doing makeup. I love singing and dancing in front of the television. I love being in the mirror. I love getting dressed up. But I was definitely always into music videos as a kid. And I never would have thought that from that desire that I had when I was like 10, watching MTV Cisco's The Thong Song by making the video, that years later, working at my jobs, we would have recreated the Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion WAP video to promote hair products. For those of you out there who, like me, have gone through different points in your life where you have been struggling from getting one place to the next, or maybe you've been at a complete crossroad like I was. I had a major change in June of this year. And when I tell y'all, I was done. I was spiritually done. I was emotionally done. I was creatively done. I was burnt out because you have to know, when I separated from my previous job and went into entrepreneurship, I was having like a totally different mindset on how I thought that this was supposed to go. So, based on my previous experience, I was just like, okay, well, I know how to sell products, and maybe if I sell myself this way or I present myself this way, I can cater to this particular audience. And then I'll make all of these products to be in alignment with this particular brand. And it's going to come out this way. And I did all kind of shit, y'all. I spent all kind of money. I learned how to create a journal from scratch and get it drop shipped. I learned how to create designs for um, sweatshirts and t-shirts, and I was learning how to drop ship that, and built a website. I started the Manifest with Need podcast. I had done all of the things, and I realized there was a part of me that was still not satisfied, that was still not leaning into my creativity for me, but more so leaning into my creativity and what I thought I knew, and what I thought I knew, or what I thought I needed to do in order to make money, which was still rooted in fear and lack and all of the things opposite of what God probably wants any of us to be doing. Feeling like I had to hurry up and get it all figured out at one point in time because I have these kids to raise. I want to lean into my creativity, but this is what I know how to do. And this particular model has worked for so many people, so it's got to work for me. And so I was putting all my time and effort into this. And I ended up burning myself out even more than I was burnt out when I was working at my previous job. And something that I struggled with so much was feeling like a failure, because I had never been in a position like this before, where I had literally felt like I tried everything and nothing was working. I was running out of money. I felt like I was running out of time. I was damn sure was running out of patience. And I was done. And I had a conversation with my friend Delisa, and I looked at her with tears in my eyes, and I just said, I feel like a failure. So for me to utter those words to one of my best friends, that I felt like a failure, and for her to look back at me and say, Neira, there's nothing that I could ever do and nothing that I could ever say to make you realize that you're not a failure if you don't believe it yourself. And to hear my friend say that shattered me, because I didn't realize that I had even spoken the biggest curse over my life. In The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino, there's a quote that says, "Success can be defined in many different ways, but failure is only defined in one way. And failure is man's inability to reach his goals in life, whatever they may be." Pastor Jonathan Everett has been talking on his Instagram Live every morning for the last couple of weeks, reminding us that successful people just don't quit. Failure is man's inability to reach his goals in life, whatever they may be. The feeling of failure will come up even more if those goals are wrapped into anything that does not align with that man or woman or others' creativity. Because it is through us operating in our creativity, the things that we're naturally good at, that we find the most fulfillment. And that fulfillment transcends a dollar sign. That fulfillment gives us a real sense of security that money can't necessarily just bring us, or the idea of money can't bring us. If we're operating in our creativity and fully operating in our creativity, more than likely it will bring us money and security. And if we don't know how to speak over ourselves, how to encourage ourselves, how to get out of ruminating thoughts, how to be able to recognize when we really did have a win, how to acknowledge all of the things that we're good at, you will forever, it doesn't matter what level of life you're in, you'll forever be in that mental and emotional state of torment when you don't know who you are. And it was at that moment that I had to really sit down and think about, who am I? What am I doing? Who have I been being if I don't know who I am right now? And I had a little intervention with her and my friend Joe. Y'all know I talk about my friend Joe a lot. And it was decided that I needed a hard restart, because I feel like if I'm going to have an opportunity to have a hard reset, I really need to figure out what this looks like, and I need to make it count. Now, listen, I completely understand that everybody does not have an opportunity to have a hard reset on life. We've got children, we've got homes, we've got other responsibilities. But for anybody that has been struggling with feelings of failure, feelings of unfulfillment, a lack of joy, I think that it would be imperative and super helpful if you just took a step to pause and really reassess and reevaluate your life and get back to the things that make you feel good. So take some time out this week or whenever you're listening to this podcast when you're not driving to just make a list of all the things that you enjoyed doing as a kid. And you could be able to start there and start incorporating some of those things back into your life. Start incorporating playtime back into your life as an adult. One of the non-negotiable exercises in The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron is called an artist date. And it's literally time that you take out by yourself, no spouse, no kids, no partner, no friends, no nothing, but time that you take out for yourself once a week to go and do something that speaks to your inner child, that speaks to your inner creative. During July, I think I went on a random walk in Marietta to go and get me some ice cream, and I ended up running into this candy shop, and they had all of this retro candy that came out when I was a kid, candy that came out probably before I was a kid. And it was just so nice to play. Like one day I decided to catch a matinee movie and I saw the Barbie movie during the summer. Sometimes it's me taking myself out to dinner or just going for a walk in the park. But you want to create that time and that space to be intentional about feeding your inner creative so that you can open yourself up to the possibilities of what you could be doing or where that joy and fulfillment is for you that you may feel like you're currently lacking. A good group of my friends are in the field of social services, and I admire them so much because their creativity is the fact that they have empathetic and understanding hearts, that they have compassion for people, and they found through them leaning into that piece of their creativity, they've been able to find ways of making a living from that. So before even trying to figure out, like I said, though, what the career is going to be or what the next move is to make money, just begin to focus on what you are naturally good at and naturally gifted in. And by leaning into that a little bit more every day, you'll be able to find what the next step is. I hope that this um, episode and reintroduction has been helpful to you. I'm pretty sure that somebody out here listening that may have felt like they were struggling with figuring out what the next step is. Listen, Rome wasn't built in a day, and a lot of times we make things way more complicated than they need to be. So we're gonna take baby steps, and I'm only sharing with you what's worked for me. Take the baby step this week, and just really think about what you're great at and what you're naturally gifted in, and kind of do whatever it takes to hone in on that piece of your creativity. Hey peeps, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. I hope that you were able to find a jewel that you can keep with you every day or put it in your back pocket for a later date. If there are any topics that you'd like for me to discuss on the podcast, please feel free to shoot me an email to Neira the G.O.A.T at gmail.com. Remember to like this episode, share it with a friend, leave a comment, give it a rating, whatever floats your boat. Go forth, be great. Always remember, what you're seeking is seeking you too, and everything that you need is already within you. So go within.